will get on to our final panel session of the day. Real estate strategy, would design, experience, or footfall take precedence in crafting winning spaces? Or how Instagrammable is it these days? Our panelists are Wendy Westbury, Real Estate Senior Director, Americana Restaurants. We also have Vishal Mahajan, Director, Dubai Outlet Mall, Gaurav Narain Bahadur, Director, Development, Abmia, The Wendy's Company, David Richardson, Managing Partner, SHP Portfolio, and your moderator is Kapil Malhotra, Chairman at Total Solutions Group. Let's give them all a nice round of applause for the last session of the day.
I think we're all in. A very good evening, everyone. We're looking forward to the most important session of the day. Thanks for still being in the room. We're just going to head to cocktails in a bit. My name is Kapil Malhotra. I'm the Managing Director at Total Solutions Group. We evaluate customer experience across Asia. While we were putting this panel together, if Minnie and George gave me a choice out of all the panels to moderate, I think this would be the one. Not that this is the one that I chose, but the insights that we're going to try to bring across today, and especially with the panelists that we have today, I think it's going to be very interesting. I'm just going to repeat the theme of this panel discussion. The theme is, would design, and I'm going to post this question to the audience so we can do a show of hands before we start the panel, and at the end of the panel, I'll pose this question again. So, would design or experience or footfall take precedence in crafting a winning space? So let's say design is the most important strategy in defining a winning space. How many of you believe that design is more important than the experience or more important than footfall? Is design important? Anyone who wants to do a show of hand? Okay, we have some hands coming for design. Okay, the next one is experience. How important is experience in defining a winning space? How many people believe experience is very important? Okay, we have more hands coming up. And then there's footfall. Without footfall, businesses don't exist, or do they? How important is footfall? Okay, so great. So we're going to do this at the end as well and see if more hands raised for different topics. But my first question to the panelists is going to be a common question. Designing, defining, or curating or creating a winning space. What are the metrics that we believe that we should measure that tells this is a winning space? Vishal, if you want to take.
Good evening, everybody. The success of any project where we all are involved in depends on the footfall that I see everybody agrees to. And the footfall depends on design and the experience altogether. So the design is an important part which gives the comfort and the convenience to the customer, which we all look after. And according to that, things get further with the customer coming in, footfall getting increased because of the convenience and the comfort of the customer.
Okay, David? So what would be the criteria or metrics that define a winning space? What do you think is that metric that you would say, according to me, if you have more sales, if you have more sales per square foot, or whatever, is that for me, that's a winning space?
Profit.
Profit.
I think it also depends where you are in your journey. So we work with a lot of, I'd say, smaller brands in fast food who are on that growth phase. And in that early phase, you can't afford mistakes.
Right.
Now, there is the alternative strategy of you're looking to grow to 50 stores or franchise and become the franchisor around the world and so on. So you may have to take locations which are hero locations.
Yes.
That give you that perception. But fundamentally, you're in the business to make money.
So if you think there's more profit for you, that's a winning space for sure.
A winning space is profitable.
Wendy.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree. I mean, in terms of a winning space is what's going to draw the the location that's going to draw the most customers to serve them how they expect to be served, and in return generate profit for the shareholders.
Well, thank you for that question. And I'll ask a question to the audience, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, Gaurav.
So how many people over here in the audience are running a cafe or restaurant business as a charitable organization? I don't see any. Okay, another question. How many people are running a cafe or restaurant business to make more money? Please raise your hand. All right. Some of them are shy couple. Others already, I think, have a lot of money, so they don't want to raise their hand. But like what David was saying, that is it. That is the answer. You know, a business must make money. And a winning space is a space which will make money for the business. That's it.
So I think we've set the base very clear that the business for a business is to be in business, and to be in business you need to make money. Now, we also understand that customers today have an option and they have a preference and they have a choice. And design also today is an extension of the brand personality. Mm-hmm. It also communicates a lot of what the brand is. Mm-hmm. So how important do you think that design elements have started getting into a lot of senior management decision making, that this is what we should be using today? And where do you think that lies between the three? Yeah, Gaurav, that's for you.
Well, I think design plays a pivotal role in delivering a great brand experience or a brand promise. And I'm sure the audience over here already realizes that a great design is a great first impression, and also it creates a memorable visual identity for the brand, right? But I would just flip the table over here and ask a question: who is our customer when we are designing? Don't worry, I'll answer that too. I think the frontline crew is our key customer, right? They are the ones who are spending the maximum amount of time at the restaurant.
Very interesting.
Right? If we are designing a restaurant, we must take their needs into consideration. It's very important. And most businesses in this region are recruiting far and wide and spending thousands of dollars to bring these people in and train them. So work with a space that is going to suit their needs as well. And ergonomics is a science. Diego this morning was talking about that on Ravi's panel, that, you know, make ergonomic spaces. So make ergonomic spaces, invest in a good design company that is an expert in restaurant designs to do it for you.
So fantastic. I think, Gaurav, the thought that you've given me is that design is not only important for the customer. Design is maybe even more important for your in-house team, because they're spending that much time. And if there's a science and an art that is developed around design, that can get extended in terms of a superlative experience for the customer as well.
Well, if your staff is happy, then they will take care of your customers, right?
Great. Wendy, you know, the way real estate is rapidly evolving, the consumer expectations. We have consumers who travel across the globe. We have consumers who are in different segments, so they have different demands, tastes, and habits. What do you think is currently driving the most significant changes in how spaces are being designed and how they're being utilized?
I think it's kind of like coming back to the fundamentals. When we're talking about design, we're all kind of thinking about our small, like, eco-environment of, you know, our cafe or our restaurant. But in fact, today, most of the master-planned cities or eco-environments in the world are actually master-planned with F&B in mind. to begin with. So they start with the F&B,
Yep.
and then they move to the residential, and then they move to, will they put play in there, will they put commercial in there, will they put retail in there? So you'll be surprised, and particularly in this region, and particularly in a lot of the things that we're seeing in the giga projects in Saudi Arabia, that they are actually designing around F&B. So that's the first thing. And so then in terms of design, there's a few elements to think about. Number one is that the bolder the design, it's going to get more of, it's more of a kind of, it's going to be more noticed. I think a few themes are also coming through in terms of designing F&B spaces, and a lot of it is coming from what the younger generation are wanting. So they're kind of going from a high-end, service environment to a high-end design environment at lower prices. A few of the themes that are coming out is that you would have seen is what they're calling kind of restaurant labs, whereby they're building like 60 square metre back of houses, of which to the back of house you've kind of got unskilled labour building the food, and out the front you've got multiple number of restaurants selling local food, different experiences. And so that then they're being able to do different things and see what the customer is enjoying. The other themes that we're seeing is in terms of you've probably seen them, or you don't really know you're seeing them in hubs in airports, where you've got one back of house restaurant with maybe the same operational platform with the different areas of food, but across the front you're seeing 6 or 7 different experiences and different cuisines. We know that I think over 70% of the people out there are looking for a design-led multi-sensory experiential experience when they're going to a restaurant that's affordable. Yeah. That's what they're looking for. So the other themes that are happening out in these kind of master planned cities is these, as you will see, I hate to call it time out, but it's the best example of being able to try out local cuisines into one environment. So, and particularly this is all coming from the young people about what they're looking for, different local choices, flexibility to flip brands if they're not working, yeah, agility in terms of customer preferences. I think the other kind of theme that is coming out as they're building these branded cities based on F&B is they're looking at sustainability. And I see Mark, my co-worker who heads our facilities at Americana. Hi, Mark. And we all think about sustainable growth and sustainable design in terms of, LED and, what are we doing about the, the air conditioning systems? Are we saving MEP? But there is evidence to show that the customer doesn't see sustainable growth in that way. The customer sees sustainable growth as localised produce, yeah, seasonal produce, wastage, things that are not what we think about in terms of design. So as we go in and we're building and designing spaces for F&B, and we're spending all the money on all this fancy stuff, I mean, that's not what the customer is interested in terms of sustainable growth. So I would say overall, the major impact of what is happening in terms of design at the moment, in new design, in the restaurant space, is coming from the young population and their curiosity and their appetite for diversity and trying different things, and having our restaurant designs being agile to be able to adapt to what they're looking for.
Right. And I think since you talked about the young generation, not only do they have a wallet, but they like to spend as well. So yeah, a lot of designing of spaces is kept in mind with them. David, I'd like to come to you. One of the important elements that we have out here is footfall, right? That footfall today dictates a lot in terms of how the place is going to operate. is footfall the real measure of success, or is it a little overrated? You know, and what type of strategies would you give to a developer in terms of the tenant mix, in terms of the experience, in terms of engagement to drive footfall? So two parts of the question. Is footfall, like I believe every mall has a statistic that I have these many thousands of footfalls every day, every weekend, and then there's another mall that says, I have 5,000 more than yours, and there's another guy who says, I have a little more.
And this mall in the future will have 25 million when it opens. I've been there and I've said that.
Yeah.
And it'll come true eventually, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But is footfall... Wendy and I dealt with each other for many years in a former life. Is footfall the be-all and end-all of success? Okay, there's a correlation between footfall and revenue? I think it's fair to say yes, there is. Is there a correlation between footfall and profitability? Not necessarily. And if there was, then you would have a project that has the same tenants year in, year out, but there is constantly a churn. I used to manage many malls, and I can tell you the successes and failures that real estate can play. There is a definite perception that if I can get into one of the major malls in Dubai, then I'm going to make money.
Correct.
But that be not the case. But not only that, we'll talk about 2024 from a UAE perspective. We're currently in a time where developers, I would say, are at their highest occupancy level than ever before. 99.9%.
Absolutely.
And if you are looking at your growth strategy and you get a plan and you say, right, I want to be in Dubai Mall of the Emirates, Murder City Centre, and that's me done for Dubai, good luck. You'll be waiting maybe for about 5 years, if not the rest. Because it's kind of like looking and waiting for a solar eclipse. Because unlike, say, London, where you have in any one particular street 100 landlords, you're dealing with one, or who are all connected to a point of sale system. On a minute-by-minute basis, you can go onto their phone, they can see how are my cafes performing versus yesterday, versus last year, who's the best, who's up, who's down. It is analyzed to the very inch, and they know exactly what they want, who they want, and so on and so forth. I mean, we've been part of discussions where we're trying to acquire spaces, and we are one of 60 people trying to get that location.
But is that a queue, or is that a concept that gets...
If you hear of a thing called a wait list, this doesn't exist, by the way. There is no such thing. That's the polite, thank you very much, we'll maybe speak to you in 5 years. It is all about landlords know I have too much chicken, or I'm saturated in chicken, or I've got enough burgers, and so on and so forth. So they're very, very selective in what they want, and who they feel will add value to that real estate. So it's not necessarily, is the footfall going to make me the most profit? It's actually getting that opportunity in the first instance in 2024, and probably for the next couple of years, we all hope. Now, what does that mean? Well, what do you do? Do you not grow? Can you start looking at being a little bit smarter? And I think what we're seeing in a hot market is that development is now feasible. And what that means is that developers, their job is to develop.
Right.
And there are returns for developers now because the values are at such a level. And we're starting to see some cool, innovative, new developers coming forward, which are unconventional, I would say, that maybe don't have that level of footfall, but you might pay less rent. Your capex requirements and obligations and the onerous nature of a particular lease will be more flexible. So your bottom line could be equal to a high footfall location, which has so many sensitivities. Don't assume that the big mall in Dubai means you're going to make money. there's locations and pockets where you won't. Things like, for example, Alsacal. Alsacal, I was chatting to a guy in there, he's doing 800 covers a day.
Right.
With an average check, I'm guessing, of probably 120, 150.
Sure.
In Alsacal, in an industrial estate. And that to me is quite a smart play on real estate. It's how can I make something that is a bit different my strength.
Correct.
Valley 77, I was there the other day in Cowanege. It's a cool environment, and it was busy. Spoke to a couple of the tenants and the operators, they're making money. And this is a drive-through, quasi,
Yeah.
it's cool. So yes, correlation of footfall equals profit doesn't necessarily ring true. The moral of the story is make sure you do your due diligence and understand every touch point before you make that decision.
Great. I think that's very, very interesting. And Vishal, coming to you, 2007 when the Dubai Outlet Mall opened up?
Yep.
What was there at 2007?
Well, 2007, we were right in the middle of the desert.
So you chose the location.
Well, the location was chosen for purely being an outlet mall. Traditionally, outlet malls are supposed to be out of the city and away from the regular retail so that it doesn't cannibalize the regular retail. And I remember very well when I went out talking to our partners, it was like, who will go there in the middle of the desert? But thankfully, when we opened in 2007, we were about 72% open. And the story has been successful so far.
So now you're touching 100. You're almost there. I mean, you're at a 90% in your first phase.
God has been kind, that's what I would say. And the conversion, in addition to the footfall part, I would say it's more to do with conversion than only purely footfall. Thankfully, the conversion rate for Dubai Outlet Mall has been extremely healthy. We count it as around 90 to 95% conversions. And
does that mean because people choose to go an outlet mall for a particular purpose and hence the conversion is higher?
Exactly, because apparently we don't have fish or we don't have snow to show to the customers. They come to the mall purely to shop and engage themselves. It is seen that there are regular customers who come purely to spend time and explore what they can get in a bargain. And that goes to all levels of economic strata.
Yeah, but whenever I visit the outlet mall, you know, the impression that you have internationally is that an outlet mall is just a discounted place. You have the best of the brands. I think you've opened Ralph Lauren today. You have Burberry. You have another brand that you was mentioning that is doing as good as Burberry. So I think your services, your experience is top notch, is what we see.
Well, we are in Dubai, and everybody in Dubai demands minimum level of luxury to begin with. In other markets, outlet malls, because we have to keep the rentals on a limited level, we are limited to, or other malls are limited to spend that kind of facilities to the customers. Mostly they are open-air schemes internationally. But here we have to provide the air conditioning, we have to provide the minimum, we have to fulfill the minimum expectation of the customer to be in a comfortable place. So we go to that extent when we get into the customer services staff going around and walking in the mall, guiding customers where the new shop has opened or what they can get in a bargain on that particular day when the customers come and ask for it.
And phase 2 of the Dubai Outlet Mall, is there going to be something different that you're going to do on the food and beverage side, or?
Well, when we opened, we were, as I said, right in the middle of the desert, so people used to come, shop, and leave. Now the demographics on that particular stretch of Dubai is growing and growing very fast. We have very strong neighborhoods developing, good demographics coming up there. So because of that, we have now put a lot of stress on good F&B. We have a good neighborhood right next to us, about 30,000 villas coming up. So we are a part of the success story of Dubai growing further.
And when you step out in the parking lot, what type of cars do you see outside in your Dubai outlet mall?
Well, it surprises me that, and I remember and I talk about it, that one day, it is a consistent thing, but not six. I saw 6 Rolls-Royce standing in different places in the mall, and I said, well, everybody loves a bargain.
Fantastic. Gaurav, you know, today we're looking at the world which is, everyone is looking at convenience, ease, access, delivery, food. When we're looking at physical locations, and you're looking at the digital opportunities and options that consumers have today, how do you actually drive traffic and get people to a store? So what is the significance of physical stores? Is it even more significant, as significant, or has it gone down as compared to the options that exist today?
Yeah, that's I think, a complicated question. But if I have to answer that accurately, I would say that we'll have to peel it back and first look at what kind of a location you're opening and what kind of an asset you're opening. When I'm talking about a location, are you opening a neighborhood unit? Are you opening a transit unit? Or are you opening a high street unit? When I talk about an asset, are you opening a food court asset? Are you opening an inline asset? Or are you opening a freestanding drive-through asset? Once you have mapped that out, then you can really figure out whether you need car traffic, you need foot traffic, or you need digital delivery driver traffic, right? I think peeling this back further, I think what is important for a specific brand would really depend on what they stand for. Who is their customer?
Right.
What is their product? What is the consumption occasion of their product? I remember hearing it from someone in an earlier panel also. And once you have defined that, I think then you can really make a decision about whether you want to focus really on an all-out digital strategy, or do you still want to drive foot traffic or car traffic to your location.
So the location and the demography around it dictates the strategy.
Yes, definitely. Just the location, if you are in a neighborhood and you are servicing a community, then you need delivery as well as some footfall, right? And to address that, you'd need to design your restaurant accordingly as well. You might want to have a focus on what your delivery driver journey is going to be for that restaurant.
That's an important point, yeah.
So, yeah, we always focus on the customer journey, but at times we forget that delivery drivers are also entering into the same space. So how do you design that journey will play an important role as well.
Wendy, when as the Americana brand of restaurants, when you're looking at a location and whether it's viable for one of your restaurants, and you operate in different countries, so there are different variables that kick in, right? So what makes a location viable? When do you say a no to it, or when do you say a yes to it?
Okay, so even though we do operate across different countries and obviously different type of assets, I'll kind of focus mostly on our QSR assets, which is mostly what our assets are. And the key is the trade area. And the reason that the key is the trade area is because the trade area dictates how close the nearest store is. And how close the nearest store is going to depend on how much cannibalization, when you open one store, will it have the impact on the profitability of the other store. So once you've nailed the trade area, which is, we could talk 3 hours about how we find out what the right trade area is, but once we find the right trade area, and this is again outside of a mall environment, which is the majority of our QSR brands, once you define that, then I would say it's an equal measure between footfall and the retail adjacencies that dictate success, because still 40% of our business is delivery.
Right.
Okay? So the delivery will impact the cannibalization, and then the rest of the 60% of the business that we need to get out of that store has to come from something. And it's a half combination of footfall and retail generators. You can have a whole lot of people walking past your store, but the adjacencies aren't the right retail generators and they won't congregate. We know that when we combine, it's not even our own brands, if we put a McDonald's next to a KFC, both brands will do better. We know that. So the retail generators, now for different brands, I can tell you there are different retail generators that work, but that's, we've got 10 brands in 12 countries, so it's too complex to talk about. But I would just say, for the sake of it, trade area number 1, and then number 2, half-half between the quality of the retail generators for that brand in that market, and then the footfall.
And you still are acquiring more brands, is what I understand, right?
Yes, we are.
And out of those 12, now there's going to be 13 and maybe 15.
We currently have 10 brands across 12 countries, and we are looking at our growth is going to be a combination of 2 things. Number 1, growing existing brands into existing markets that we don't have that combination. And then the second one will be bringing new brands into existing markets, so new brands out of our 10. The third is going into different geographies outside of the 12 markets, but that is third in terms of our opportunities. We have 2 ways to grow. One is organically, which is basically using the 10 brands and growing them. And then the other is acquisition, where we would buy other brands to bring into our portfolio and grow in existing markets. So that's more of a merger and acquisition. Or the third possibility is to build our own equity brands, and so build them from scratch. So there's lots of different levers that we can pull, and we're currently working through a 5-year strategy plan that will determine of which of those levers that we will pull to continue our growth.
Now, talking about experience is one of the important factors that we've put here in creating or curating winning spaces. At the end of the day, a product is a product, but what we believe is that brands are now investing in creating winning experiences, where you either celebrate an occasion, and even if you don't, you know that your experience is predictable, and hence your decision-making is made towards that brand. Yet at times, the experience at certain brands is not the same, right? So starting, Gaurav, with yourself, how do you think standardized experiences can be curated? And is there a way that we keep a tab, and this is a question for all the panelists, how do you keep on understanding customer demands and keep in mind that you need to craft more winning experiences?
Yeah, I think technology is playing a very pivotal role in delivering consistency. And, whether you talk about front of the house or customer-facing technology, or you're talking about planning technology, or you're talking about back of the house technology, there's technology present in every facet of what we are doing. And that really helps in standardizing the experience. And also we must realize that in the workforce that is entering into the Gen Alpha and the Gen Z workforce that's entering into our restaurant businesses, they need a very technology-friendly environment as well.
Right.
They want automation. They want automatic grills. They want automatic fryers, automatic coffee machines. They want everything automated, right? But most people over here know that although automation is conveniently available, it can be very expensive to implement, right? So we have to be very smart about how do you identify what is the core of your kitchen and automate that, because that is going to help you deliver a consistent experience and will also help your alleviate any pressure, peak time pressure from your staff.
David, yourself, what do you think about getting the right experience to the customer, and how do malls or brands, how should they think about it, and how should they get it implemented?
The developer. So I think we are seeing a shift, this is a UAE perspective, from the majority of opportunities for restaurants, shall we say, we are a mall environment, whether that be community mall, whether that be super regional, regional, whatever it may be, but we're not really a high street country. 20, 30 years ago, malls were department stores, a couple of restaurants, and that was it. Now F&B is the new anchor. And you see that from when the percentage of F&B in a mall was around 10%. Now it's being pushed up to 20%.
Right.
Okay, which poses a risk. Great for the consumer, variety and options. Now you're spreading the pie between 20 rather than 10. But I think what we're seeing is developers looking to create an environment where the real estate adds to the emotional experience of the customer. It used to be a bit of a gas station experience. I'm hungry, let's eat. And it was secondary to the primary experience, which was going to the department store or the supermarket and let's grab some food afterwards. Now they're trying to make it that food is the reason you go. And what you will see is, we're starting to see the closures of food courts. We're starting to see closures of anchor retailers,
right,
and anchor retailers, and turning them into, say, food halls. You're seeing malls which are traditionally quite an inward-facing environment, where they're trying to knock them out and have them outward-facing with greenery and parks, and the greenery coming into the environment itself,
right,
so that the real estate, combined with your fit-out, adds to that experience. Because food is about creating memories and emotions and feelings, and that's what makes things popular. So it's how can you find opportunities where the real estate adds value to your overall goal.
Yeah. When we talk about experiences, okay, I'm getting a cue that we need to wrap up. I remember this was in 2002 where I had a trip to Japan, and a friend of mine took me to a restaurant. It was actually a client who became a friend. And what I saw in this restaurant, that there were not too many servers, and there were all two of them standing at one side, and then there were various tables. What I like about the menus in Japan, they're very visual, so you're looking at the picture in terms of what you want to order. And the moment I decided the entrees or the starters, and I looked at Wakuda-san that, I think I'll go for this. And immediately there was a server standing right next to me on the right. And I was like, whoa, where did he come from? And then when I went to the main course, again, the guy was here. And I was trying to notice that that gentleman isn't waving at him. So how come this guy gets the cue? And the third time when I was looking at the dessert, I was like, I'm just going to check whether he's coming from under the ground or what's happening. I didn't get the answer that how would he know that I'm ready to order? And this was 2002. There was no technology that I thought that, and there was no 3D hologram, right? Technology that existed that a person would be there. And at the end, it forced me to ask the question to this gentleman that, how does he know that we're ready to order? And he says, the moment you say that, I think it's going to be this, there's a small bell that he has at the table. He just presses it and the guy just comes. And I said, And I was like, that's so simple. You know, sometimes we use technology in a very simplistic fashion. Um, since we're closing the panel, in terms of any closing comments, Vishal, yourself, Wendy, Gaurav, David, if you see a major trend coming up in the next 3 to 5 years, I'm not going to say 10 years, we can't crystal ball gaze for 10 years ahead, what do you think the next major trend is going to come? We didn't look at food delivery a few years ago. We didn't have the quick commerce coming up at the speed that it's coming up now. What do you think is going to be the next trend?
Well, we almost all have a consensus that a winning space is all about profitability. And the profitability comes from footfall. Footfall comes with the good design and experiences. And experiences, whatever can contribute to experiences and the design, including technology, that has to be incorporated. So in the next 5 years, or maybe after that as well, we all have to focus on the main ingredient of the whole equation, which is the customer. So whatever the customer will demand, eventually we will have to cater to that and give him and whatever and whenever and however he is looking at. So ultimately, customer is the king, as we all, I believe, will agree to. And we have to look and cater to whatever he will evolve, and we will have to evolve with her.
So catch up is the game. David, for yourself, short answer, what do you think the major trend is going to be? What do you think is going to come up?
Unique opportunities, restaurants that are doing well outside of the conventional, because opportunities are so few, but the demand is so high, people will take risks and some will flourish. Slight example would be the Al Wasl Jumeirah was never what it was once, and it is today. But somebody started a trend. So I think you're going to see some unique locations that begin to flourish versus the conventional.
Wendy?
I think what we have to watch out for is that the future is going to be AI restaurants and AI designs, and there is going to be a stage where by AI we will be able to say we have $10 to spend, and AI will give us 1,000 options of what to order. And I think that that's coming sooner rather than later, and that's going to impact design. I have a second one that I really think is important for people to understand, is that the increase in the solo diner has to be considered in design.
Very interesting.
In the moment, in the UK, 47% of an increase in solo diners, and solo diners have a 47% increase in spend. So we need to watch out for the solo designers. I think that's critical, but we need to be careful about where. I was in Nurjan near Yemen last week, and I went into a store of our KFC, and the sales were not where we needed them to be, because we thought that the men-women section thing was gone away. In traditional spaces, the families are still really important in that segregation. So understanding from a design perspective your market and who your customer is going to be critical, as well as AI. So I would say that they are two main things to watch evolve.
Great, Wendy. Gaurav?
Yeah, I think what we already know is that there is very high penetration of mobile telephony and internet in this region. That is going to continue to fuel innovation. And just in brief, I think it's important to stay agile, stay supple, change with the times, take quick decisions, because if you're not going to change and adapt to what the consumer is looking for, like what Vishal was saying, then you're going to fail very quickly.
Fantastic. My verdict, I'm not going to ask a show of hands, my verdict is that the lines have blurred between experience, design, and footfall. They all have their own set of impact when decisions need to be taken, but yes, they need to be thought through. I think this was a great panel discussion. I would like to thank David, Vishal, Wendy, Gaurav. Thank you very much for adding more value to this panel session. Thanks a lot.